Hey everybody, my name's Andy Bishop. I'm going to do a little demo of something called IV. It's a new plugin in Lightwave 2026. This works in conjunction with Tendril if you want to do that. So Tendril, you can guide the path of where something grows. This does it automatically, but also gives you a very, very fast option for creating IV or whatever plant you want. We've included an IV system with the system, so you just load it in, play with it. But you can apply your own models to that. Okay, so how do we make this work? So what we're looking at here is a mesh, but you can see we've got a secondary mesh over some of this, and that's just to limit the amount of geometry it's drawing over to speed it up. So it's a proxy object effectively that just enables it to work a little quicker. We'd recommend that with any high density model, but it might be a simple model like a wall with a texture on it, whatever. So we click on Add the IV master. Here's the plugin. Now, at this point on the plugin, it doesn't allow you to click on any of the other top tabs until you've set up the first part of how you use it. So we want to choose that collision mesh. So that's the proxy collision mesh there. And obviously that's the main mesh, so that's the one you want. And we can name it whatever we want to name it. So for instance, I could do this as IV1, IV2, but for now we'll just do a plain IV, and we'll do the same thing across the lot. After I've done the beginning part of this, or the first part of this, I'll show you how we can do a more complicated version where we can set up different growth rates on different plants. But the first point here is just let's add some spawn points. So I'm going to add one here. I'll add one round on the side there, do one over there, one over there, so that's fine. And then to activate those, all we need to do is hit the space bar. So I hit the space bar, it'll take a few seconds for it to draw, there we go, and we've now got our IV working. Now at that point, all these other tabs are available to you, and in fact it jumps straight to the IV generator the moment you've spawned. The instance has not finished yet, but that will be coming later in the year, I think. It won't be on the first release. So on the IV generator, we've got our surfaces. We can now apply the surfaces from the model drawer. So if you've got a model you're doing yourself, you just make sure you've done that with the usual images, objects, scenes, etc. Go apply surfaces. It will find those surfaces and apply them. So let me just show you that in VPR. So there we go, there's our model with our textures on. Great, fantastic, done in just a few seconds. So the other thing we can do with this, we can also make this grow over time, or we can extend the amount of growth we want. So in this particular case, at the moment, these are currently doing steps. It will change to frames if we turn off the auto grow. So right now it's just steps, which is basically like subframe calculations. So on the growth, I'm going to click on the envelope. I'm going to add another keyframe at frame 100, and let's just do that correctly, and then go to the first keyframe and drop that down to 0. And I'm going to put a bit of tension on that so it grows slowly and speeds up. So if I go back to here, you can see now it's growing and building over time. And if I want to expand the amount of growth, I can just up that, let's say to 200. Now this will take a few seconds, but it will expand the growth of the IV and give us a little bit more to play with. There we go. So if let's have a quick look at that, VPR, and you can see we've got more growth going up, and we can, keep on going with that, add more, do whatever we want to do. So let's just talk about a couple of things on this, which we can adjust. So we have something called adhesion weight, and that basically is the amount it sticks to the wall. And you can see it's pretty tight up here against the wall, as it is on the objects, which it might be what you want. But let's adjust that. So I'm going to take that down to 5%, and 10% actually will stick it pretty well. But if you don't want to go to 100%, you don't need to. But at 5%, it will basically start to have little bits hanging off where the adhesion hasn't been quite as strong. Can you see here where my mouse cursor is? Pull that round. There's little bits hanging away, and it looks a little bit more natural, which I prefer. So again, the adhesion weight is excellent. You've got other things here, the ivy size. You can have also on the branching side, you could enable roots. So you can have roots that go out on the floor. You can add flowers. If you've got flower models in there, you can add those too. You can also adjust the segments. At the moment, these tube segments are just 3 sides. You could add 5, 6 if you're getting very close, whatever you really need to do to adjust. And then on the advanced side, again, you can up the amount of roots and adjust that and so on. You can also bake it, which will obviously mean that it's baked solidly into the scene and much easier to do rub throughs and those sort of things. So that's the basic layout of our Ivy setup. Very easy to do, super fast. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop this first part, and then I'll come back in a few seconds and we'll do the same thing again, but we'll actually give ourselves the ability to grow each individual ivy tendril separately. All right, so all good, that's it. Okay, so part of the reason I stopped the video there and started again now is just so I could reload the scene. I didn't want you to have to sit through that. So I've reloaded the scene, exactly the same scene, all good. So once again, let's go to the collision mesh. But this time what we're going to do is set up each of the points as separate growth streams so we can do different things with them. So I'm going to name this first one Ivy 1, and I'm going to place a spawn point here. So that's good. Hit the space bar. There's our first lot of stuff. Right, so I'm going to go back to my setup, change this to Ivy 2, and I'm going to place some spawn points. I'm going to do one here, and I mean, you don't have to do them where I'm doing them. Obviously, you can do them wherever you like. But so this is a different spawn group. So I'm going to now hit the space bar. There we go. So there's our second spawn group, and you can see here we've now got 1 and 2. So let's go back again, and we're going to add a third. So I'm going to name that 3. So when you name this, you don't want any spaces between the name and the numbering. So just don't put any spaces there. Let me put the next spawn point in. Let's do that down there. And then we'll hit the space bar again. Excellent. Okay, so we've now got 3 different ivies we can control. So if I want to go back to Ivy 1, I could set that maybe to 150 and to add a bit more growth capability to it. I could go to Ivy 2 and I could take that to maybe 200. Again, it takes a few seconds. There we go. Now, Ivy 2 is obviously it's right up to the top. The other thing here, I'm going to change the adhesion sort of weight. So I'm going to take that down to 5% on this one because I quite like the way bits were hanging off on the against the wall on the left and so on, and in by the gate. So that's now made that a little bit messier. Or the other thing I forgot to do, let me just go back to Ivy 1, apply the mesh, go Ivy 2, let's apply to that. Haven't applied the third one yet, so let's go to Ivy 3 and apply the surfaces. So you can see they're all very, very much individually controlled. Now this one, I don't want it to quite get to the roof line there, so I'm going to take that down to 100. You can see that one changes, but none of the others do. So now I'm quite happy with Ivy 2. Maybe I want that a little bit less there. Well, that's pretty good. But what I want to do back on Ivy 1 is I want to make that grow quite a bit more. So I'm going to go 250 here. This will take a bit of time because obviously it's doing a calculation up further up the scaffolding. There we go. And on this one, I'm going to do again adhesion probably. So let's go 4. And again, that will take a little while to calculate, but we should get some messy ivy coming off of it. And you can add more gravity to that as well. So if I added more gravity, that would make it bush up down the bottom a little bit more. So it's your choice. Gravity, only small increments can have big effects. So be fairly subtle with it. And I'd recommend working on individual batches like this. Makes it a lot easier to control. So okay, so that's good. And then what we'll do is on IV3, let's see how far we can go with this one. Let's do 3 on that one. And that's okay. Made it collapse a little bit too much. So let's go 5. That's a bit better. So it hasn't gone up as high. So it's now where it had gone just below the roof line. It's dropped back a bit, but it kind of I think that's a nice shape. So let's take that. Go to the VPR, and there's our IV. So we've got little bits hanging off. More on these sort of the archway and more on that wall, a little bit hanging off on here, and that one there's sort of again a few bits hanging off and obviously a little bit more weight to it. But you can see actually some of the ivy tendrils going a little bit higher where they've grown but they haven't yet got the growth of the plant on. And again, every part of this can have their own individual growth amounts. You could have them grow at different speeds. You could have bits going much slower, faster, whatever you want. Again, you can adjust the branching on each individual part as you go. And again, you can bake the ones that maybe you've fixed and you're happy with. You could bake some and then carry on working on another. And there's really no limit to the quantity you can do. And just remember, it also works with tendril. So if you wanted to use the same plant and then run that through tendril, but have one ivy sort of path sort of grow along a path that you design, you can do that as well. But it's a perfect way of sort of dirtying up a scene. And of course, you've also got things like the spider web now and all those sort of elements you can add to it to add even more realism. So you've got a fantastic method of creating plants, adding them really quickly, highly interactive, very flexible in terms of its capability to create multiple plants at different rates. So that's Ivy in Lightwave 2026. I hope you like it, and hope you enjoy all the other tools we're giving you. Thank you.